Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into one of our most powerful ideals, eternal love. But we're going to do it through a story that is, well, pretty intense. It's shocking, and it forces us to look at what that promise really means when you take it to its absolute horrifying limit. So, how far would you go? It's a question we hear all the time in songs and movies, this idea of being inseparable, together forever. But what happens when that beautiful, romantic notion stops being a metaphor and becomes real, physical, and something you literally cannot escape from? Okay, so let's get right into it. Our story is about two lovers, theo and ngak. They go to this wise old master, the Lao Jia, and they ask for the whole shebang, an unbreakable, eternal bond. And you know what? He gives them exactly what they asked for, with a real, heavy iron chain. Now, at first, you might think, wow, that's kind of romantic, right? An unbreakable physical bond. But as we're about to see, the master in this story, well, he sees right through the poetry. He's going to peel back that romantic layer and show us something way more complicated, hiding just beneath the surface. This is where it gets really fascinating. You can think of this slide as a kind of translation guide. On the left, you've got all their beautiful, poetic words, but on the right, that's the master's interpretation. He's basically arguing that their language isn't about giving love, it's about taking something, demanding a feeling, trying to recapture a memory, or seeking a guarantee against their own loneliness. So here's the crucial point, at least according to the master in this story. This relationship wasn't a partnership, it was a transaction. You've got two people both totally focused on their own needs, basically using the other person to feel good, to feel safe, to feel romantic. It was never really about the other person. It was all about the self. All right, so they got what they wished for. They're literally chained together forever. Let's see how that dream starts to unravel when the brutal reality of being inseparable 24/7 really starts to set in. So the chain, it basically becomes this huge amplifier for every single tiny conflict. I mean, just imagine it for a second. You can't even roll over in bed without yanking the person next to you. The constant clink, clink, clink of metal. The fact that you can never, ever do what you want when you want. What was supposed to be a symbol of unity has become a machine for creating misery. And this quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It's easy to talk about forgiveness and patience when you can walk away, go to another room, and cool down. But the chain takes that option off the table completely. There is no escape, which means there's no space for any conflict to ever fade away. And things go downhill fast. The dream of eternal love just spirals into this nightmare of resentment and, eventually, violence. It all leads to this final, tragic pact, a completely misguided attempt to find freedom from the very bond that they once begged to have. But here's the final, awful twist. The pact goes horribly wrong. Instead of freeing him, ngak turns the gun on herself. The bullet only kills her, leaving Thung alive and still chained. But now he's chained to her corpse. Can you even imagine that? He's horrified, he's desperate, and he drags her body all the way back to the old master, the Lao Jia. He's screaming, begging for the key. I mean, this has to be the end of the experiment, right? She's dead. Surely he's going to be set free now. But no, the master just looks at him, says one single chilling word. Vinhang, which means eternity, and then turns and walks away. He's basically saying, you asked for eternity, this is it. The lesson is not over. Now, to the housekeeper in the story, and let's be honest, probably to all of us watching, this looks monstrously cruel, a grudge taken to a horrifying extreme. But according to the story, the master isn't acting from a place of emotion at all. He's coming from a place of wisdom, delivering a severe, but in his view, compassionate teaching. So, what is the point of this seemingly brutal act? Well, this is where it all comes together. This isn't a punishment. It's actually a very specific and very direct lesson plan for enlightenment. You see, the master has engineered the perfect, inescapable lesson in a Buddhist practice called Quan Bathin. It's a meditation on the impurity and the impermanence of the physical body, and its entire purpose is to destroy our attachment to it. Thuong Mank is now chained to the ultimate object of this meditation. He cannot look away, but the lesson doesn't sink in right away. I mean, look at this. He's washing her body, trying to preserve it with spices, whispering romantic words to her corpse. He's still clinging desperately to that old illusion of eternal love, even as the physical proof of its opposite is literally chained to his wrist.
And then you get this other fascinating twist. A well-meaning aunt shows up, and seeing his suffering, she interferes. She cuts the body away, but leaves the decaying hand chained to him. And in what she thinks is an act of kindness, she actually dilutes the lesson. By reducing the object of his meditation, she just prolongs his suffering and delays his chance at freedom by years.
So, after all of this darkness, this intensity, what's the ultimate point? What are we supposed to take away from this parable about love and chains and decay?
Well, the whole story is basically a stress test. It takes our poetic ideal of an unchanging, eternal love and just smashes it against the brutal, messy, physical reality of existence. And it suggests that the very act of trying to lock love down, to make it permanent and unchanging, is precisely what turns it into a prison.
And here's the core takeaway, laid bare. This story challenges our deepest assumptions. We think love is a constant state, that the body is eternally beautiful, and that attachment brings us security. But the parable argues the exact opposite. Everything is impermanent, and clinging to illusions is the true source of our suffering. So what does this leave us with? The chain in the story was made of iron, but it forces us to ask, what are our invisible chains? Are there expectations, our demands on other people, or our own refusal to accept the beautiful, terrifying, and ever-changing reality of just being human?